Thank you and welcome to the meeting this morning. Just before I start, we'd just like to say a few words. Our thoughts are with all the residents and businesses that have been flooded overnight. Unexpected circumstances with rivers and this weather is unbelievable. And I'd also like to thank, on behalf of this group this morning, emergency services and everybody, members of the public who helped to try and salvage what they could. So we'll move on from there. Thank you very much. Apologies, we've got Glenn Swingler. Have we got anybody else?
Councillor Brian Blakely is going to be late, but he will be joining us.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just trying to get hold of Anton because I'm his social secretary, I'm afraid.
Okay.
I haven't reminded him, so I'll just give him a ring now.
Can I also welcome Peter Scott as well, coming on our committee this morning as well. Welcome, Peter.
And thank you.
Thank you. Declarations of interest. Anybody got any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. If you have any, please shout out as we go along. Urgent matters agreed by the chair. There are no urgent matters agreed by the chair. Agenda item number 4, minutes of the previous meeting. So we'll go through page 7, page 8, page 9. I think Mervyn's had an email off you this morning regarding the impact of the RHYL school. Mervyn, that's coming in March, I believe, is it?
Yeah, I've had a reply. I've had a reply from Rhian. Thank you.
Page 9. Do we have an update on that, Steve or Rhian, with the working group for the task and finishing for?
Task and finish group on the riparian and the flooding.
Yes.
It's under the work programme. It's appendix 5 to that. We're asking you to discuss the terms of reference.
Thank you. Page 10. Page 11, 12, 13 and 14. Any matters arising from that? No matters arising? Okay, can we have a proposer, Graham, and a seconder that they are correct? Mervyn Parry, I think it is, yeah. All in favour? Hands up if you can. Anybody against? Thank you. Sorry, just a bit of technical there. So we'll move on to agenda item 5, which is the RHYL generation programme and governance. And I think we've got the leader here this morning, and I'm not sure who else we've got. Leader, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Morning.
Can you hear me?
Could you introduce this? I'm not sure who's with you.
Yeah.
Looking on my papers.
Yeah, Nicola Kay is here, and Graham will participate as well. So, yeah, and well, I'm not on mute. You should be able to hear me.
I can hear you, Hugh. Have you got your headsets on?
I could hear the leader then.
Can you speak again, Hugh?
Can you hear me? I've got a fantastic report to put forward, and I just hope everybody hears it. So,
I can't hear.
Yeah, doing closely now. Who I hear you? Okay.
That's interesting because I can hear the leader.
I couldn't hear Tina either.
Graham, can you hear?
I can hear.
It's just really quiet.
Either the leader or Tina.
It's okay. Has everybody got their headsets in? The headsets that were sent out from Denbighshire?
Yes, I've got headsets on.
I haven't, because it gets a lot of feedback.
Can you try and put your headsets on then and see if it works like that?
I'm not
not going to mix the two because this is my own laptop. I couldn't get in with DC stuff anyway.
Okay,
So no, I'm not going to put DCC equipment in here, not have to try that.
Okay. Q, could you keep talking so see if we can hear you? I can hear you personally.
Yeah.
Graham Timms can hear you in here.
I can hear you. I can hear you here as well. And it's important that everybody does hear what I've got to say.
It's like a tiny whisper. It is. That's all you can hear from me.
It seems like it's very quiet. It's not really the volume of the translator, is it? It's not.
Did you dally siarad Hugh?
Yeah, I can't shout anymore, or the whole village in Llanellidan will hear what I've got to say. But I was hoping that from my side, there's usually my technical bits that don't work. But I'm okay on this side. So something in your side, Hugh.
If it's Hugh that's trying to speak, he is kind of frozen a bit from what I can see on my screen.
Yeah, I
so
still
that might
can't
be
hear
the
it
issue.
either.
I haven't got mine, just for a thing, I haven't got mine interpretation, I haven't got mine using any language at all, so I can hear Welsh or English on that one, so you know, whether it's to do with the translation business, I'm not sure, but I haven't got mine on the interpretation one, is off on mine.
Can I just come in there, please? I'm taking it that some can hear the leader fine and some can't hear, or it's a whisper. Can I check that everybody's chosen a translation channel? You need to be on Cymraeg or English. You need to be on one. Okay. Is it just the leader's voice that you're having problems with, or there's
some other voices too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we adjourn this meeting for 5 minutes until Steve or not?
Yeah. Well. Okay. Yes, that's a good idea, Chair.
We'll adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes to sort some technicals out. I don't know what we're going to do, but just give us 5 minutes. Is number 5, and it's the RHYL generation program and governance. And could I hand over to the leader, Hugh Evans? Hugh, I'm not sure who's with you, Diolch.
Right. Diolch, Hugh. Mae Nicola Cai hefo fi a Graham Bowes. A wrach na i gofyn i'r swyddogion siarad. Na wrach na i just dod fo fewn yn barod. Just rhoi rhyw cyflwyniad bach. Hugh, os di hynny'n iawn. Pawb dal i clywed fi'n iawn yn den? Dwi'n edrych yn y tŷ fa yma wan, Hugh. Dwi'n cymryd bod pawb yn clywed.
Mae'r cyfeithu'n iawn.
Oce, na i cario ymlaen.
Iawn, Hugh.
Na i cario ymlaen, Hugh, tan dwi'n cael stop, felly.
Okay, diolch.
Ga i ddiolch i chi am y cyfle i ddod yma heddiw. Yn anffodus, di ddim gweithio fel o'n i'n disgwyl, ond dyna fo, mae'r tŵr wedi bod yn ofnadwy yn dydy. Ond i'n meddwl wrach sy'n pwrpasol cyn i fi ddod i'r adroddiad, Hugh, bod fi yn rhannu dipyn bach o cefndir yn lun ar RHYL, am bod yna mwy a mwy o bobl ac aelodau hefyd yn gofyn wrtho fi pam rhaid i'r RHYL fod yn gymaint o priority i'r sir a pam bod angen gymaint o buddsoddiad yn y dre yma. Felly, o'n i'n meddwl sy'n jyst rhoi bach o gwybodaeth yn y cefndir i helpu'r trafodaeth yw. Fel dyn ni gyd yn gwybod bod RHYL gen 2 o'r wardiau sydd yn y most deprived wards in Wales enw. RHYL, y gorllewin RHYL 2, di'r
Hugh, wyt ti dal yna? Okay. Would the officers supporting Hugh, would they like to come in now? We've lost the leader, but officers, can you come in now?
Yeah, if I just help out here.
Thank you.
Chair, is that okay? It's Graham Borodar, everyone. I'm going to make a big assumption now that everyone can hear me clearly. I can see thumbs up on my screen, so that's really good news. Excellent. Also, I don't quite know exactly what the leader is going to say, but he's obviously introducing the report. So you've got the report in front of you, and obviously RHYL remains a priority for the council in terms of regeneration. So while we recognise that all our towns facing very difficult times with COVID, etc. The general kind of decline in retail shopping in our local towns due to internet shopping that's probably been accelerated by virtue of COVID. What we do understand is that RHYL is actually probably in need of regeneration. The other towns are in need of support, but not particularly regeneration. Whereas RHYL is a large town that's faced significant decline over a period of time, not untypical of seaside towns in the UK. So there's been a long-term regeneration programme for RHYL, and that continues. So in your papers, there's an update on where we are up to in terms of the town centre being the priority. And there's the town centre vision in the papers for you there. And also what's in the papers is the governance arrangements that were put in place to manage the portfolio of projects that are ongoing to help deliver the regeneration of RHYL. So we've got a RHYL RHYL Regeneration Programme Board has been set up that I chair. And then beneath that, in terms of our involvement of members, there's RHYL Mag, where we hopefully keep our RHYL members updated via RHYL Mag. And also there's a RHYL reference group, which will be chaired by the leader and is attended by all our RHYL councillors, all RHYL town councillors, and the local AM and the MP. So we hope that means there's good dialogue and communication between what we're doing as officers in managing the various projects and our links with our local politicians, not least, of course, our elected county councillors. So there's a lot of work that's gone on in RHYL in terms of the waterfront regeneration. We know there's been some good work there. Travelodge, Premier Inn attracted, the Sun Lounge bar on the promenade, 1891, the theatre, and of course SC2. So there's a lot of work that's gone along the promenade that is good work in terms of regeneration. We've done good work around the harbour with the bridge, etc. And I think that's a successful kind of leisure area down there. And opposite the bridge, we've got Marina Quay. Private development has started to take off, admittedly nowhere near completed there, but there's a big oldie there and the range. So that's part of the regeneration package. And in West RHYL, there's been an ongoing regeneration of the housing issues in West RHYL. Fair amount of demolition. Number of HMOs have gone. We've created the new park and some new housing. So all those things in the round over the last 10 to 15 years is part of the RHYL regeneration that's gone on. But recently, we've decided that the priority needs to be the town centre. And that's why we've got that town centre vision document. And the foundation of the regeneration of RHYL Town Centre will be based on the Queen's Market redevelopment, the Queen's Building. So in your papers, you'll see a number of projects. A lot of them are in the town centre or around the town centre, but not exclusively. You'll still see that there's projects ongoing outside of the town centre. The other thing is we're talking here about our lead in terms of the physical regeneration of the town, with lots of capital money supported by Welsh Government. But there's another form of regeneration, isn't there? How we're supporting the people and the local people whose index of deprivation in terms of health and employment and income is low. Now, there's another piece of work ongoing. That's not necessarily what today's about. That's another piece of work around the RHYL Community Board that's been set up, where we've got our partners with ourselves and health and the police, etc., looking at other indices around deprivation like crime and health. That's an ongoing separate issue. And if you're interested in what's happening there, that may be a future report that can come to scrutiny. Today is mainly around our role in the physical regeneration of RHYL and the ongoing projects. That invariably means sites that are being physically changed and altered through capital schemes, etc. So I'll leave it there. There's also Emlyn on the in the meeting, and Nicola Kai. And Nicola perhaps could just introduce herself, add anything further to what, if she wants, to what I've said, and I think it's best opening up to questions, Chair. Hope that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham.
Nicola?
Thanks for coming into that as well. Nicola, please.
Hi, just turn my video on. Hi, as Graham said, I'm Nicola Kai. I'm Economic and Business Development Officer.
and I've been working with Graham on the regeneration programme recently. Hopefully you've all had a chance to look through the vision document, because I think that's quite sort of succinctly captures really what we are trying to achieve in the town centre. The vision document itself was the result. It was the end of about 18 months worth of work by a project team from across the council, who worked with urban designers called Planet and placemaking specialists to develop the vision. So that was signed off by Cabinet towards the end of 2019, and as Graham said, that's really what we're hoping will coordinate and guide the development of the town centre over the longer term. Probably, you know, we're talking 10-15 years. We're not going to have it sort of finished and signed off in the next couple of years. So the vision does go through 8 key ideas, as they're called, and they are the key proposals for the town centre and things that we want to see happen, that we feel will should be where we're focusing our attention, and that will really sort of turn the town in terms of regeneration of the town centre over coming years.
Lovely, thank you, Nicola. Emlyn, tisio dod I fewn? Neu ti'n hapus?
Diolch, Mr. Cadeirydd. No, I'm happy for to open it up to questions. Thank you, Graham and Nicky. You've covered it very well. So, yep, thank you.
Diolch, Emlyn. First speaker is Rachel Flynn, please.
Thank you, Chair. It was just, it's a great document, and I like the vision for RHYL. One of the questions was, would it be fair to say that one of the deterrents for investment in the town centre would have been this TAM 15 flood risk to shops? Because I know some people have mentioned it to me in the past about, you know, wanting to invest there, but this TAM 15 legislation with the planning because of the flood risk, is that now exempt with the new flood defence, please?
I'm happy to take that, Chair.
Yeah, please do, Graham.
Rachel, what a very good question. And I'll do my best to answer it, but it is a good question. Now, the flood TAN 15, as you rightly say, is guidance, it's advice that Welsh Government have produced for considering how to take forward development and having regard to flooding. And the fact is that a lot of RHYL is recognised as being an area of potential flooding. And that flooding can come from 2 places. It can come from overtopping from the sea, and a high tide and high winds in the wrong direction, as it were, can result in flooding from the sea. But RHYL is also at risk from flooding from the river. So the flood maps identify areas of RHYL that are liable to flooding from both the sea and from the river. And clearly what it means is that any development in those flood areas, and significant parts of RHYL are in those flood areas, need to have special regard to how they would address the flooding issues as part of the development. And you're dead right there. For as a developer, if you come along and say, I want to do something in RHYL, and you want to develop it, the first thing you get is a letter from NRW saying, well, you're in the floodplain. How are you going to address the flooding issues of your development? And that might be things like having to raise the floor level and having to do a flood consequence assessment, all of which can be quite expensive. And that might deter you from investing in RHYL. And that's still the situation, of course. RHYL will remain in the floodplain, large parts of it. Now, we've got a flood relief scheme that's going on in East RHYL, and that's really around protecting a certain number of houses from the overtopping of the sea, and those works are well underway. And that work will protect those houses from flooding from the sea, but it won't impact the flooding from the in the town, the risk of flooding in and around the town centre and significant parts of RHYL. There are plans that we are looking at the potential to do a flood relief scheme in central RHYL. It's early days, and there'll be reports coming forward in due course. Again, that will have, if that scheme were to go ahead, and it'd be a very expensive scheme, millions of pounds, it would certainly address the risk of flooding from the sea, but probably wouldn't address the risk of flooding from the river. So even with that scheme, the risk is that large parts of RHYL would remain at risk of flooding. And if you were a developer and you put an application forward NRW would still say, we need to know what your flood consequence assessment is saying and how you would avoid and mitigate the risk of flooding. So I think the risk of flooding is always going to be there for RHYL. Even with engineered solutions, it's probably still a problem that RHYL will have to face. Now, what TAN 15 does say is for regeneration purposes, then, you know, development should be promoted. You've got to weigh up the risk of flooding against the benefit of regeneration and regeneration development. So that's an argument that we as officers will always put forward to NRW, is that the developments are coming forward are part of a wider regeneration of RHYL, and therefore NRW, in any consultation response to a planning application, we're asking them to weigh up very carefully their concerns around flooding against the benefits of regeneration. And ultimately, those planning decisions, of course, are taken by you, predominantly by you as members in the Chamber Planning Committee. And you too need to weigh those issues up. So you might get a development with an NRW concerns around flooding, but you might still want to grant it planning permission because you weigh those things up and you weigh up the advantages of the regeneration of RHYL as a result of that scheme. The mitigation that they put in is sufficient in your minds to allow that development to take place. So hopefully that's covered broadly the issues that you've raised, Rachel, but it's a very good question. The bottom line is, I think, for the foreseeable future, whatever engineered schemes are put in place, the issue of flooding will remain an issue for RHYL in dealing with planning applications. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Rachel, do you want to come back on that? Are you happy?
No, I'm happy. Sorry, Graham. There was something happened to my audio, so I missed part of what you said. But what I did hear was quite comprehensive. So it's really just down to a case of the planning committee weighing up the pros and cons of future development.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, because just to come back on that, if you missed something, Rachel, so I don't want to prolong it, but you're right. Any planning, NRW will respond, and NRW, Natural Resources Wales, they will raise concerns, as is their job, around the potential risk of flooding in a development. But often that development that you'll be considering will be surrounded by existing properties anyway. The risk of flooding is already there, and you have the right as the planning committee to weigh up the risk of flooding and the consequences of flooding versus the benefits of a regeneration scheme. And TAN 15 allows you to do that. Thank you.
Sorry, just one come back from that, Graham, just about regards to insurance, because I feel obviously that would be a problem subsequently because of that. So would businesses therefore get insured?
No, again, that's a very good question. That's really outside of my remit. You're right, though, as in anywhere that's got a potential flooding, the issue for an insurance company will be to consider whether they want to insure you or not. That's a business decision that they would have to take. And if they are prepared to insure you, they have to weigh up what premium they would like to charge you as part of their logarithms of working out whether it's a risk they want to take. You know, and that's an interesting issue, again, that might deter developers. We might be prepared to grant them planning permission, but they might find that getting insurance and insurance cover is a further hurdle for them in an area that's recognised as a potential flood area. So not all of RHYL is in the floodplain, I have to say that, not all of RHYL, but significant parts of RHYL are. And they're all parts of the issues that developers will have to weigh up in terms of planning consent and a whole host of other issues, not least whether they can get their property insured, and if they can, is the premium affordable or not? Thank you. It's all gone quiet, so I assume you heard that. Everyone heard that last bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. As I said earlier on, we're sympathetic to the residents and the business of Denbighshire with the flooding overnight. I don't really want to go down the route of any more flooding conversation in this document. So could members please stick to the documents? Thank you. Next is Brian Blakely.
Well, yes, thank you very much, Chair. The problem was that I was going to add on to what Rachel has said, and you've just come back and said we don't need to talk about any more flooding. The problem is we just had a tremendous amount of flooding overnight, where the River Clwyd has overtopped its banks again and flooded all the fields back at the back of Fort Derwin. Again, we've had a massive amount of flooding down Fort Derwin again this morning, which has flooded the site where the McDonald's would have been and the roundabout there. Sainsbury's was closed this morning and all the other shops there this morning because of the flooding at the back. It is a worry. It is a hell of a worry. Again, on my ward, again, which is the Wellmar, which has a tremendous amount of flooding in the past. That is all it's going to bring up there. The concern again is just to back up what Rachel was saying on running, how it's going to affect our developers coming into RHYL and what they're going to be able to do. The only other item I've got to say is to thank Denbighshire County Council, Graham and the team for the amount of work they've put into RHYL. It's been absolutely tremendous what's being done at the Queen's building and with the SC2. There's always been a lot of complaints in the past regarding why is RHYL getting all the money. Well, of course, RHYL, of course, is the main town in Denbighshire. And if we don't get the people to come into RHYL, like we get them coming into Llangollen, and then the money's just not going to come in. So we do need the development. And I just let the comments coming from other parts of Denbighshire wash over my head. Again, I am concerned about the flooding, but I thank Denbighshire County Council and the teams that are working hard to regenerate RHYL. I thank them very much for the hard work they put into it and the way we've gone forward over these last 4 to 5 years. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Brian.
Chair, it's Graham here. I don't think there was a question there from Brian. I won't go on about the flooding, because I think we've covered that, although it is an issue for regeneration, clearly. What I would say in the broader context to Brian's points that he's made, and it goes to the introduction, a lot of good work has gone on in RHYL. I think RHYL has turned a corner, but it's not quite there yet. And what regeneration about, where we talked about in my introduction about our other towns, and we're sympathetic and we understand our other towns need support as well. But RHYL is actually an area that requires regeneration because to some degree the market's failed in RHYL. Yeah. And it's about putting public money in to get to a situation where you get to a tipping point where the market comes back in and actually wants to do things without public money and public subsidy and public involvement. And I don't think we're quite at that stage yet, but we are very nearly there, as demonstrated by Travelodge and Premier Inn and any number of other private sector developments that RHYL have seen recently. Now would not be the time to back out of a regeneration project of RHYL when you're nearly at the top. And if you're climbing a mountain and sometimes you're at the bottom, it looks a long, long way when you get to the top. When you're nearly at the top, sometimes those last paces are really important, but what you don't do is stop and go all the way back down to the start again. And I personally think in terms of regeneration, we're pretty close to the top. We're quite close to turning RHYL into a town that won't need regeneration in the future. And it'll stand on its own 2 feet in terms of free market investment into the town. But we're not quite there. And we think the last piece of the jigsaw puzzle is the town centre. Hence the focus on regeneration, not exclusively, but the focus being on regenerating of the town centre of RHYL. Now, since we started on that priority project a couple of years ago, a few things have made it a bit more difficult, not least COVID, but what there will be is opportunities as a result of post-COVID, post-Brexit, there will be opportunities, and we've got to place RHYL in the best position to take advantage of those opportunities that come in. And at the moment, the private sector is still looking for some public subsidy and public support in order to invest in the town. Now's not the time to back out. Now's the time to continue to have RHYL as our regeneration priority, but it can't be forever, and it has to be on the basis that the free market will step in and RHYL will become like any other town. It'll just need general support as opposed to a regeneration strategy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Graham, and I'm sure the leader who can't be with us this morning for technical reasons, he echoes your view as well. Thank you. Brian, you happy with that answer yet? Rachel, you want to come back?
Thank you, Chair. It was just a question about moving forward with sustainable forms of transport, moving towards the future in RHYL. I didn't see much about, because parking's quite a problem in RHYL, and I think a lot of people are deterred by that as well when they go into RHYL, because there's a few odd shops people like to go to, and obviously the current situation with these parklets is making that quite difficult. And long term, I just wondered about the plan for the whether you were looking to extend the pavements, you know, to make them wider, or if you're looking to take away parking in the town centre and move towards maybe a tram system, or like, you know, electric scooters like a lot of modern cities and towns now, or electric bikes. You know, just wondered if we could have a bit more on the vision of that, please.
Nicola or Graham probably.
Well, if I start to, oh, to be honest, that's my phone going off now. Do forgive me. It's all happening this morning, Chair. Just bear with me. I'm going to turn my phone off. Thank you. If I start and answer the question, and I might ask Emlyn in particular to come. If Nikki wants to come in, she feel free to, Nikki. But I will ask Emlyn to come in to put a bit of meat on the bones of what I'm about to say. If you go to appendix, is it appendix 2 of the report, Rachel and members, what you will see there is that the work of the regeneration of RHYL has been divided up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it 5? We've got 5 separate bits, which we think everything sits under. So Queen's Building, access and movement, retail and commercial, residential and environment. So it kind of captures everything that we're doing. And really the question that you've raised, Rachel, sits squarely into that part under access and movement. And you'll see that there are a number of projects there that we've got to help improve the access and movement around RHYL and the car parking situation in RHYL, where cars can park, etc. And looking to make the place more friendly for vehicular movement and also more friendly for pedestrian movement. So there's some things that are quite fundamental that we think we need to tackle first. And as we've done that, I think over the coming years, then some of the stuff that you've raised will probably come to the fore, but they're not particularly projects that we're looking at now in terms of like electric scooters, etc. But I think that will naturally be the progression into the future. Emily, I don't know if you want to touch briefly on some of those projects in the access and movement programme there, please. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Graham. And you're absolutely right, really. As Nikki said before, the starting point is the town centre vision document. That does incorporate a lot of transport-related activity, really, and projects. Obviously, there's much of this going on at the moment anyway in relation to development of active travel routes, cycling routes that are linking up into the national network. We've got EV work at the moment going on around electric vehicle charging points in some of our car parks. And we'll see now over the next 6 months, we're actually developing a county-wide sustainable transport plan, which we'll be coming to members with over the next 6 months. And obviously that will include RHYL and developments in RHYL. So I think there's much activity going on at the moment around this. What we've also seen very recently is some trials that we've put into place in various towns, and you've mentioned obviously parklets and some active travel pilots that we've introduced, particularly around active travel, but also around providing more social distancing routes and so on. So that's something that we've worked on over the last few months, which we'll look at how that beds in, how that works, and review that going forward. So actually we've got Mike here, who's actually been leading on lots of that work, and Mike is here for the next item actually around parking. But can I ask Mike, is there anything else you'd like to add into that? Because I know you're leading obviously on particularly the promenade project and how that's going to look for the future, and that ties into what Rachel was talking about there, and also the movement of traffic within the town centre. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Emlyn. I mean, Emlyn summed up really well, as did Graham, about the work that's been taking place around transport and what we're looking at doing going forward. But specifically about the central promenade, the goes along the promenade.
We're losing you a bit there, Mike. Sorry, we're losing you a little bit there.
Okay.
It might be worth turning you, turn your screen
just done that. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, that's much better, Mike. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, yeah. So I was just saying, obviously you provide a really good summary, both yourself and Emlyn, about the work that's been going on and is planned. And so specifically about the Central Promenade, that project is about providing better linkages for both pedestrians and cyclists to really try and reconnect the beach and the promenade, particularly in that area at the top of the high street where it does feel quite disconnected at the moment. The road splits into two. So there's two sort of sections of road, like dual carriageway in effect, to cross. There's a lot of clutter in terms of the street furniture, long lengths of guardrail. And also visually, you can't directly see through to the beach. So there's really quite an ambitious project that we're in the early days of developing there. We're coming up with some concept designs, which we'll start to engage on with local members and so on later this calendar year. But really interesting project, and a project that can really make a difference to the appearance of that area of RHYL, and just provide, it's not just the aesthetics, also really make a difference in terms of better links. And of course, it's not just about active travel. Emma mentioned EV. We know that there's obviously going to be more of a change, more people buying electric vehicles as we go forward. The government target of 2030, of course. So along with that, it's recognising that the car still has a role, and so we've also been looking at access and and the role that parking plays. So it's about a balanced approach. It's not about it all being active travel. It's about just trying to meet all those needs. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you. No, I think that's probably okay. Really clear. And thank you, Emlyn. Chair, hopefully that's answered Rachel's questions. Thank you.
Yeah. I can see the leaders come back in. Leader, should we have another bash at listening to you?
I don't know if it's worth it anymore, Hill, but I've just been listening to the conversation, and Graham's covered most of what I was going to say. The point I'd probably like to make in terms of supporting Graham's position that we're reaching the top of the ladder.
Sorry, we still can't hear you. Some of us can't hear you. So, but thank you for being in the meeting. But we can't hear you. Sorry. So we'll move on to Rachel. Were you happy with the from many of the officers there?
Yep, that's great. Thank you.
Great. Anybody else within our working group that? Oh, Graham Timms just highlighted here. Thank you, Graham.
Jock, just mentioning that the involvement of elected members, and I know that you mentioned various boards that are overseeing the project, and I just get to them that there's the programme board, and the membership of that appears in the report. There's the RHYL Community Development Board. I don't know what the membership of that is, and then you mentioned the MAG, the RHYL Reference Group, and RHYL Town Council. The two highest level meetings I would guess would be the Regeneration Board and the RHYL Community Development Board, but it's important that elected members get representation. My view is at the highest level, as well as consultation further down, and I noticed that there are no elected members at all. Is there not a place for elected members, or an elected member at least, to represent the members in RHYL?
Is 4.11 RHYL Mags? Are they not involved?
Yeah, but that's not at the highest level.
Okay, maybe Graham, could you come back on that then, Graham Bowes?
No place for members at all, Graham. No, of course there is. Of course there is. I think the way we've structured it, whether it's right or wrong, and that's probably part of hearing what scrutiny have to say, and the leader is obviously here as well and be interested in scrutiny views. We've not tried to exclude members. You say that the board is at the highest level. I guess what the RHYL Regeneration Programme Board, what's that about is probably quite technical in ensuring that the projects that's already been agreed, if you like, are interlinked, and that the benefits from one project is being sought from the other, and that people who are leading on projects understand what the other projects are doing. And so we felt, rightly or wrongly, that should be quite officer-led, if you like. It's a meeting for officers. And then what we do, the structure that we've got is that Nikki, Kai, and myself will then ensure that we're briefing the leader, because the leader in his portfolio is lead member for the regeneration of RHYL. So we'll brief the leader, and then what we do is try and have a very keen two-way dialogue with RHYL MAG, Town Council, and the reference group. So it's
Hi, Brian.
it's
Hello,
hopeful.
Mike. They got another item agenda before us.
Brian, can you mute your iPad, please? Brian?
Yeah. Yeah, apologies, everybody. Yeah, I didn't. I'll put myself on mute now.
Thank you. Sorry, Graham.
No, okay. So I think the explanation is that we then look for a two-way dialogue with the MAG and the reference group and the town council. So hopefully it's less around updating them, but more about involving them early on in projects before projects are actually agreed, individual projects. Whereas the programme board is about looking at the projects that have already been agreed to make sure, if you like, that they're feeding off each other. But you know, that doesn't mean we're adverse to having members on the programme board, and it's something that we welcome views on. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, it's just the way that we've structured it. Thank you, Graham.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm not a RHYL member, so I don't want to interfere. And I assume that RHYL members are happy because nobody's mentioned it. Yeah.
Thank you, both Grahams. Anton, next.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering, do officers communicate with any other authorities? You know, when we're doing sort of regeneration work, I use the likes of New Brighton Promenade as a good example of regeneration, and it's good to see Reading that way. But I'm just wondering if there is ever any sort of communication with them, or you know, maybe just copying them a little bit. Thank you.
If I come in first, and then perhaps I'll ask again Emlyn or Nikki to support me. It's a good question, Anton. And personally, we probably could do more on that front. Often, when you're at the coalface, delivering all these projects, etc., sometimes it's not so easy to find the time to put your head above the parapet and take a wider view, and we get a bit insular. So I think the point that you raise is a good one. I don't think, therefore, we've got lots of examples of where we've gone and learnt from others. What I would say is that in the development of the master plan, we did involve some companies that have done work, some consultants that have done work elsewhere. And you mentioned New Brighton, and we used a company that was actually behind the New Brighton redevelopment, but also behind other developments in Liverpool, in Wolverhampton, and around the UK. So we have used some consultants. They themselves introduced us to other consultants who did a lot of work in Altrincham. So Altrincham was a Altrincham market, etc. was a town that turned itself around in regeneration terms. And we do have a regeneration group in North Wales that's called the Regional Regeneration Officer Group. It's called the RHAGLEN. So regeneration officers from North Wales get together on a regular basis for a whole host of reasons, but one of them is to share experiences. So we look at what's happening in places like Wrexham and Bangor and Colwyn Bay from our colleagues in our neighbouring authorities. Could we do more? I suspect we probably could. Do we do some? Yes, we do. Nikki, Emlyn, I don't know if you've got anything to add to that, please.
No, I don't think so, other than to say that we have done some sort of learning visits, as we call them, around the Queen's Market, looking at examples of similar type projects and how they operate and what their model is. I think we did that a year ago or so, probably, where there was quite a few visits, I think, to similar facilities, which, as you say, is really useful to learn from others and how they've done it and what's worked and what hasn't worked.
Thank you, Nicola. It's quite interesting, as I sit on Strategic Investment Group, that the same questions have asked, and I know we've worked with the King's. Is it the King's Market in RHYL with Altrincham Market as well? So great, yeah, great question, Anton, and it's good to see what we're working with other towns and cities around.
Sorry, Chair, just Queen's Market, not King's. Queen's Market, yeah.
RHYL, but yeah, and I was
no problem. No, Thank you.
Swiftly moving on to Meirik, please.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Mr Cadeirydd, am gael caniatad. Mae Graham wedi tynnu sylw at ardal y gorllewin o'r Rhyl, lle mae Aldi wedi symud. Ond wrth reswm, anghofio dweud bod eu siop bresennol nhw yn wag yn ffordd Wellington. Felly, ddi eisiau llenwi honno bydd, jyst gyda llaw di hynny. Os newch chi droi i tudalen 63, ac 4.1 ydi o, todiad 1, rhan 6, mae'n dangos lluniau yn y llyfryn sy'n mynd i ddod allan, dwi'n cymryd, o'r y darn newydd. A dwi wedi godio o blaen, mae'r enw y farchnad y Frenhines yn Saesneg yn unig yn y lluniau. Mae hwn yr ail waith i mi godio. Dwi wedi godio mewn Pwyllgor cynt, a cefais a ddewid llawn na ddeasaf yn ymddangos eto yn uniaethog Saesneg. Felly, ellwch chi gywiro hwnna os gwelwch o dda, gyda'r Gymraeg gyntaf, a wedyn yr enw Saesneg yn dod yn ail. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch, Meirik, a medrai ateb cwestiwn, really. Dwi wedi weld yn y wasg y ffos yma bod Aldi yn trio gwerthu y seit yma am hanner y pris, so dwi'n gwybod os rwy'n eisiau mynd o flaen o fanna. Dwi'n meddwl, pwy sy'n mynd i ateb hwn? Graham, Graham Bowes?
Thank you, Chair. I think there was two issues. As you say, the Aldi site. I mean, that's one of a number of sites, isn't it, that is available for redevelopment in RHYL. So of course it's on our list. But what we do know is that Aldi are actively looking to sell, and we'll support them in that regard. The Queen's Building, name in Welsh, no, fully understand that. It's a fair comment. I think it's part of our kind of marketing strategy that we need to put into place. So, we do give an undertaking, as we do on all our matters. We'll have regard to the Welsh language and the bilingual approach. So I thank again Councillor Meirik Davies for drawing that to our attention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Graham. Ti'n hapus, Meirik?
Ydw, diolch yn fawr I Graham am yr ymateb. A chitha, Mr Cadeirydd.
Any more members ask any questions before we go to the recommendations? No? Oh, yeah, sorry, Alan, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to make the point right at the beginning of the setup of the boards, when Graham and teams came to the MAGs, there were members of the RHYL MAGs who felt a trick had been missed in not having one or two on one or two of the councillors on the boards. We were told very clearly by the chief exec that wasn't a consideration and we wouldn't be included. So we have raised it. We are concerned about it. The other issue, and I think Graham is absolutely right in his presentation, we are getting close to being round the corner. We're nearly at the top of a very steep hill, and we know from our climbing and our walking that the last few steps, the last half a mile or so, very often is the worst. It's the same in any running event and so on. So I think there is still some pain to come, but at the end, the outcomes will be exceptional. The Queen's Market looks phenomenal, and I can't wait for that to happen and to be finished, and that first phase to go ahead. There are an awful lot of people in RHYL who make the same sort of comment. So, and I also, prior to COVID, certainly towards the end of last year and the end of last summer, people that were visiting the town were clearly making comments about who have been here in RHYL before and have seen the decline, have actually said, and been very positive about how much work is being done. We've got the 2 new hotels. In fact, somebody said to me, you've got 2 new hotels in RHYL. There hasn't been a new hotel built since the Victorian times. So that in itself is a plus. And certainly I've always said, if we can kickstart and have investment from Welsh Government and from our own local government as well, other people, other businesses will look at the town and say, what on earth's going on there? There's a lot going on. We ought to go and have a look to see if we can be included. And that would be the private commercial sector as well. So I'm exceedingly positive, as I've always been, on the projects. And long may it continue. And I'd like to thank all the officers, all of those people involved who are really working hard on behalf of us, the people in RHYL, the residents and the visitors. Thanks very much. Thanks for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Was it Barry Mellor wants to come back? Barry, is any do you want any answers out of that?
Yeah, could I come in once committee members have finished?
Graham, do you want to come back on Alan's, or are you happy with?
Thank you, Chair. No, I thank Alan for his comments around officers. Thank you very much, Alan. A lot of people have put a lot of work in, and I think there's a real commitment that we want to make sure it's right. And do we get everything right? No, we don't. Do we make some mistakes? Yes, we do. Do we please everybody? No, we don't. But we're doing our best, and I think you know, that's all we can do. And we've got a committed team here, and we appreciate the support we get from members. I think when we go to RHYL Mag and we go to the reference group, there's always good challenge, there's always fair challenge. Everyone's got a view, and we're doing our best to try and pull all those ideas and suggestions together. I know the leader is listening in, even if you can't hear him, so we'll take away the concern that there's no local membership representation on the programme board. I've got no axe to grind there either way. And I'll have a chat with the leader afterwards and see how we want to take that forward. And perhaps the idea will be to bring a future report to RHYL Mag for a discussion around how you'd like to play that. But there's no agenda to exclude members. Hopefully, members feel that you are engaged. I always enjoyed coming to RHYL Mag. I knew it would be a rough ride, but I always enjoyed the cut and thrust. And you know, the people who are more passionate than the officers to get this right are clearly the members of RHYL. Thank you, Chair.
Can I ask Barry Mellor, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We go back to the very beginning when we did hear the leader speak, and that he'd had many questions why the money and regeneration is going into RHYL. And the leader mentioned about the most 2 deprived areas in RHYL. And if we was to ignore this, RHYL would die. It's been dying for many years, and so many other seaside resorts due to the cheap holidays abroad. If we don't start now, and we started over the last few years, things are changing. We're getting really positive feedback, as Alan had mentioned, from people. We would miss the chance. Because of this COVID-19, it might be a few years yet before people start being confident about spending holidays abroad. And we're going to have more people coming to our areas in Denbighshire. If you look at Conway, the main money is spent in Conway and Llandudno, because they're the main areas on that coastline. I would like to thank Nicola Kay and her team for the report and the RHYL Town Centre vision, because as Graham said earlier, we do make mistakes, but this time Nicola and her team have gone out to the public, I think over 18 months, where we had shops open in the centre for the public to come in, give their views, what they want. RHYL used to be a children's paradise. And as Mike had said, as far as traffic's concerned, we've cut the beach away from the town centre and the main street. We need that opening back up. The more people that come to RHYL and visit, the more Denbighshire will thrive. There's just one thing I want to add here, and I want officers to really take this in. We're in a very difficult time at the moment with COVID, and I think the last count was 167 homeless families. Now, we all talk about homeless as people we see sitting on the street corner and this type of thing. That's not the case. A lot of people here lost their homes due to losing their jobs and no fault of their own. But what we're doing at this moment in time, we're looking at 4 big places to put the homeless in. Don't get me wrong, I think it's the right thing to do to get them out of hotels. They shouldn't be in hotels, they shouldn't be in bed and breakfast. We need to house these people. But what I want to ask, when we're putting the planning in for these buildings, moving into the East Ward of RHYL now, to house these homeless people, that put a time limit on them of say 5 years, so that once we've got over this pandemic and we've rehoused these people, we can put them buildings back into proper use. Otherwise, we're going to go back 30 years where we had the houses of multiple occupation in the West Ward of RHYL, where we've knocked quite a lot of them down and created a nice park area. If we're not careful, we go back to that situation. There's things we can do to mitigate that by putting a 5-year thing within the planning on these buildings. And once we've managed to house these people, which Welsh Government has said we've got to do, bring those properties back to the use of what they was. Thanks for letting me speak, Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Before anybody answers that, can I bring in Mervyn Parry as well, please, Councillor?
Thanks, Chair, coming in a bit late there. Just, yeah, you know, the work that looks good, looks very good here. I mean, I've been down to RHYL, spent a lot of time around Denbighshire during the lockdowns. We've seen what's in our nose, really, and I can see the big...
I can't hear Mervyn there. I'm losing Mervyn, sorry. Mervyn, I've just lost you a little bit there, I'm sorry.
Hang on, I'll put my screen off. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just said during the time of the COVID where we've had the lockdown, me and Hilary spent quite a lot of time going around the county just because we can, from RHYL to Llangollen, and had some good times there and seen the good work that's been done. And I think that all the work that's looking on this regeneration of RHYL is going to be fantastic, and that will hopefully spread across the county eventually. Could I just ask, how have we got a vision? There, somebody asked about the electric cars, but you know, the motorhome camper van business is a massive business in the UK, and with the people's staycations and the big sales of those that have been used for people to holiday and travel the UK, are we looking at, have we got a vision to do anything to help make these people feel welcome in our towns within Denbighshire rather than feel ostracised really by it? You know, if you go to Europe, we've got things like the airs that are there, somewhere you can go and actually, because these people aren't stopping for weeks, they're just travelling through. They'll come to RHYL, stop, have a night out, they'll go and eat, they'll go and drink, they'll go and buy a paper, they'll go and have a coffee somewhere, and then the following day they're off to maybe Llandudno or down to Anglesey or whatever. But it's very difficult to pull in, or correct me if I'm wrong, but it's very difficult to pull in anywhere in any of our towns, or not so easy in any of our towns in Denbighshire. So I'm just wondering, have we got a vision? And as we're on the RHYL one, let's see what's available there.
Graham, with you, can you answer that, please?
Well, thank you, Chair. I think we've had two questions there. One from Barry. Again, appreciate Barry's initial comments and support, and we thank you, Barry, for that and the support we get from yourself and the MAG. Barry asked something specifically about homelessness. So if I cover that first, Chair, before I go to Councillor Mervyn Parry's question about staycations, I'll give Nikki and Emlyn the heads up there why I'm talking about homelessness. Can you ever think about the answer to Mervyn's question? Because I don't think I know if we've got any kind of approach or view on motorhomes, etc. So let's deal with the homelessness first. No, Barry, you're absolutely right. Obviously, we've got a commitment, and rightly so, in the council, a separate project to RHYL regeneration that's looking at homelessness and is looking at a different model of how we can house people who become homeless for a temporary emergency period of time. How can we house them while we find them alternative permanent accommodation? So someone who rocks up and is unfortunately made homeless on a and comes to the council, we can't find them a permanent home straight away. So we have to put them in some sort of temporary or emergency accommodation. And that has often been in bed and breakfast and in hotels. And that emergency accommodation for a day or two often turns into weeks while we're trying to find suitable, more permanent accommodation. And that's not acceptable. No one wants that situation. And often we've been forced to have to do it through a lack of alternatives. So we now have some projects that are ongoing, looking at how the council can provide alternative temporary emergency accommodation to bed and breakfast. And that's likely to require finding buildings and buildings that may then end up needing planning permission, and some of the controversy that might come with that. But the alternative is not to build those sort of facilities and remain using bed and breakfast. And I think that is the worst alternative. So we must find better alternatives. But you're right, Barry, what we don't want to do is end up in a situation where we have a collective of these all grouped together in sort of one place that might have a detrimental impact upon that town or that part of the town. So it's a question of spreading it out a little bit, making sure that they're not concentrated in one place, and having appropriate facilities in terms of the quality of the facility, and also appropriate management of those facilities to ensure that they're managed properly. So we will be liaising with RHYL MAG and other MAGs, because it's not just the town of RHYL that needs to perhaps have some of these facilities over the coming weeks and months. So look out, watch this space. But you're right to raise it in the context of regeneration, because regeneration is so broad. We don't want to do something that's really good in one part of the town and then do something that has a negative impact on another part of the town and takes away the value of the good work. So of course, all these things are in the end interlinked. And there's a commitment here today to make sure that we liaise with you, the RHYL MAG, on our provisions and our thoughts around what we can do with homelessness, so to make sure it chimes and coordinates with our regeneration aspirations for the town. So that's the answer to that one, Barry. I'll hand over to Nikki or to Emlyn on Mervyn's question about staycations and motorhomes and camping. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. I'll jump in here, and I think Councillor Parry's correct. There seems to be a gap in the market, really, and in the provision for kind of motorhomes, in the county. So I think it is something we should probably look at with Peter McDermott from tourism, with Mike, obviously from a kind of transport perspective and a car parking perspective. We need to probably look at what should we put in place, what facilities might be needed, how are our car parks kind of designed to maybe allow such use of those facilities, really. So I think it's something that Mike and I should probably take away to have kind of internal discussions, and whether we'd look at maybe doing maybe a trial in the county to look at, how can we offer that kind of facility, what investment is needed, and then how that links to the kind of tourism offer in the county. So if that's okay, I'll take that away as something I'll discuss with Mike and Peter and tourism, and to see what we can develop. Yeah.
Emlyn, thank you for that, Chair. If I just may, and that may be a topic for potentially a future scrutiny report on how that pilot went or how that work was developed. A word of caution to scrutiny: don't ask for that too quickly. There's an awful lot on at the moment for officers in terms of COVID, etc. But you've heard Emlyn's commitment. I think it's just a question of thinking about timescales. But it's something members might want to consider they bring back to scrutiny at some point in the future. Thank you, Emlyn, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emlyn, for that. Maybe I'll pass you some information.
Could I ask a question?
Might help.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Joan, would you like to come in? I mean, I know the leader wants to try and come back in, but leader, do you want to come in before Joan?
Yeah, na i siarad Cymraeg here was diw'n enwol. Be sydd wedi bod really pwysig ydy bod y hyder mae'r sir ag aelodau lleol wedi creu. A mae wedi bod rhy hawdd i fod yn negyddol am rhyl. A mae'r hyder yna wan wedi cael ei ystyried, dwi'n teimlo, gan y Llywodraeth Cymru, efo'r buddsoddiadau maen nhw wedi wneud yn rhyl. Ac hefyd efo'r sector preifat, sydd wedi gweld bod yna negeseuon positif yn dod o'r sir ac yn lleol iddyn nhw buddsoddi hefyd. A oedd hwnna ddim enw rhyw 4-5 mlynedd yn ôl. A mae hwnna wedi bod yn hanfodol pwysig i creu y hyder mwyn i bobl rhoi pres i fewn i'r dre. A dyna be o'n i eisiau dweud. Lot o bethau eraill, ond diolch wedi ddigwydd heddiw na chdi. So na fod o ddistaw Hugh.
Diolch, Hugh. Diolch. Right, last speaker of the day is Joan Butterfield. Thanks, Joan. You're on mute, sorry, Joan. Joan, you're on mute. There
On mute now.
Yeah, you're on now, yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry about that, and sorry for being late to the meeting, but I have been late. I had an appointment this morning with the doctor, so I'm sorry I'm late, Chair. And I don't know what the debate has been so far, other than I heard the question answered from Mervyn and Tony, and of course just heard what the leader has had to say. I am quite concerned about the situation that exists in RHYL, and that is in and around the placement. Nothing's changed with bed and breakfast, and of course none of us want to see bed and breakfast. We all deplore it. It's not the sort of accommodation that we as a council should really continue in the same old model that we've had in the past. However, it's been the model that we've used for the last 30 years. It's not changed very much in the last 30 years. It's got more demanding over the years, and certainly the situation that we all find ourselves in at the minute has made it absolutely imperative now that we have to find other accommodation, a more suitable accommodation, and certainly along with the homeless, we've got the rough sleepers that government legislation has made it now that a ruling that we have to find and not put them back on the streets, which is quite right. But apart from that, we've always had our homeless. It will be a very challenging time, I think, for the next perhaps 12 months more.
Joan, can I stop you? Sorry. Barry Miller's highlighted, I think, all your concerns. But
yeah,
if there's anything else you want to add.
I do appreciate that, Chair, and thank you for that guidance. But I want to go on to say that looking at the situation in RHYL and looking at the homeless and looking at the number of properties that are being looked at, might I say, for future development for homeless units, I'd like to know where the plan is and what contribution the town council and the councillors are making to that plan for the future of the homeless situation. I did hear that we weren't going to put them or concentrate them in one area. I'm very pleased to hear that, Chair, and I'm sure you are, because at the moment HMOs in RHYL West are absolutely at saturation point. Out of a population of 3,000, we have 1,287 registered HMOs. And if we're going to contribute to that, the density would make it quite impossible for us to get out of any of the deprivation index areas. So I'd like to know what contribution, where is the plan, who's writing the plan, what contribution are the councillors from RHYL making to contribute to that plan? There were my questions. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Graham, do you want to just pop in on that?
Yeah, of course, Chair. Thank you, Joan. Yeah, I suppose there's the broader regeneration report that's in front of you today doesn't go into detail about homelessness because it's about the kind of regeneration projects. But as discussed when we answered Barry's question, these things are all interlinked and you can't take them in isolation. So there's no point having a really good regeneration plan we've got lots of development, if on the other hand, we haven't got a good plan and strategy to deal with perhaps other kind of social problems, if you like, and homelessness being under that banner, because we'll take with what we'll give with one hand and take away with the other, if you like, in terms of the overall impact on the town. So if there's a concern that that members in RHYL have that they're not being engaged and not having a chance to influence and input the overall homeless plan, then I'm the corporate lead on that now that we've done some changes, etc. So I'm happy to give two commitments, if you like, Chair. One is that I will speak to Barry afterwards as Chair of the MAG. I think Barry's, forgive me, you are still Chair of the MAG, I think, aren't you? Is that right? Yeah. So I'll speak to Barry afterwards, and perhaps we'll think about how we put an agenda item on MAG around the approach to homelessness in RHYL. I think there's been a report quite recently by Phil Gilroy, but we can add extra information and detail around that, and perhaps that discussion at MAG can also involve how we think best to involve the town council. So I'll give a commitment that we want to work with members on that plan for homelessness, and I think time is right to come to RHYL MAG on that.
Thank you.
The other commitment, Chair, is if the broader membership are concerned about homelessness, then of course it's open to scrutiny to ask for a report on homelessness in the round to come to scrutiny. But again, I think in fairness, there's been a few reports that have come to scrutiny over the last 6 months on the homelessness provision. So obviously it's a concern, it's a live topic, rightly so, very important factor, probably made worse by the COVID issue. So the commitment to Joan's question is, I'll speak to Barry afterwards and we'll get an agenda item on RHYL MAG to talk specifically about what the plans are for homeless provision in RHYL. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Graham. Can I just add that the homelessness has been to scrutiny in November, I believe, in partnerships. So it has been scrutinised, but you know, it's a very serious subject, and you know we all have concerns. Thank you, Joan. Joan, are you happy with the response from Graham?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I am, but it's not just the. I won't go into detail, but I will take it up obviously when it comes to MAGs, and hope that we get a solution to what is going to be a tremendous problem for the future.
Thank you, Joan. Just before I hand over to Graham Timms for summing up, I would just like to say, as a rural member, when I started 9 years ago, I remember going down to RHYL, and I was shocked what I seen. But now, 9 years on, I'm really proud of RHYL, what's gone on there, and it's a pleasure, and I encourage as many people as I can to visit RHYL, because I think they've done a great job, a lot of work to do again, and it's I'd just like to thank everybody who's been involved in that. So on that note, I'll pass on to Graham Timms for the recommendation and thank the officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say that there have been quite a few points raised there, and we've been given a commitment that you'll come back to us on quite a few of those, so we'll look forward to that. So I propose the recommendation that the committee considers the contents of the report and provides observations on the matter reported herein. I'll propose that, Chair.
Do we have a seconder? Rachel Flynn, yeah, thank you. Rachel Flynn as well. Thank you, great. Great, thank you very much, officers. We'll go on to... Sorry, anybody against? Sorry, anybody against that? Sorry. Nobody against? No. Right, we'll move
Chair,
on.
Sorry, Graham here, Chair. Just before you move on to the next item, can I just thank members for that scrutiny and the questions? I thought they were all fair, very relevant, and it's been very helpful for us. So officers will regroup and we'll come back to MAG, as I said. But thank you very much, committee. Very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham, and thank you.
Chair, thank you for letting me have a speech. I've got to leave the meeting now. I've got another meeting on.
There we are, great. Right, we'll swiftly move on to agenda item number 6, which is car park tariff systems and residence parking scheme. And I think it's Brian Jones, lead member. Brian, who have you got with you? Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me, Chair?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm sitting out in the rural community looking at obviously the events from last night and what's mopping up this morning. So apologies if I lose connection or any other. But we got Mike Jones with us this morning as well. and the report is the car parking policy and residence parking scheme, as you've mentioned, Chair. This report examines the council's existing car park tariff system and also its policy for residential schemes. This item last came to scrutiny 2015, so that's a pretty long period for it not to have come back to you. So we're here this morning. The report's quite self-explanatory. I'm sure Mike will want to add a few details on to the report and my intro. So if I can ask Mike to step in now and say a few words on the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Chair. I'll keep my camera turned off because of the connection problem I had earlier. I was just going to ask if Emily wanted to say anything first before I give my introduction.
No, Mike, carry on, that's fine.
Okay, thanks, Emily.
Yes.
Yeah, so hopefully you've all had time to read the paper, but essentially what this is about is that we have a uniform charging system across the county. So in other words, we have a standard tariff for long stay car parks. So whether a long stay car park is in RHYL, St Asaph, Llangollen, it's the same tariff system. And likewise, there's a standard tariff for short stay and the same for beach car parks. This discussion though came about because of a specific scheme that we're developing in Llangollen around Castle Street and the wider traffic and parking management considerations as part of that project. And so the initial conversation was actually, could we make one of the popular, most central car parks more expensive than it currently is, but then complement that by making a car park on the periphery of the town centre cheaper. So, and that really is the key thing about this, because at the moment, the current policy doesn't allow that to happen. But what should be clear about this isn't about Llangollen, where we're proposing the pilots having cheaper parking than everywhere else, and therefore everywhere else subsidises it. So that's why it does say in the report that with this, the overall income for a given town, and obviously it's Llangollen because that's where we're proposing the pilot, that must be the same. So there must be, in other words, as cost neutral as possible in terms of the overall car park income. This is purely just looking at the possibility of varying tariffs within the town, so the overall income is the same, but to try and create really more flexibility from a traffic and parking point of view. So for example, if a really popular car park in the centre means you can never really get a space there, if that is made more expensive, and then, as I said, a peripheral car park is made cheaper than it currently is, then it encourages some people, if they choose to park in the peripheral car park, and therefore that means there's less traffic coming into the town centre causing congestion, and it increases the availability of spaces in the central car park. So we're proposing it as a trial. So the idea would be that if, as a committee, you gave the recommendation to try this, we could then basically monitor it over a period of 12 months, and then the intention would be that we could come back and report the findings and therefore how the project had worked. The only thing I will say with that 12 months is it's obviously part of the wider traffic management project for Llangollen for Castle Street, as I've mentioned. That project, subject to funding, would commence in September, October of this year and take about 5 months to complete. So the intention would be that if we did make those changes, they would come in at that point to complement the scheme. And then, as I say, so the reporting would be 12 months on from that date. So hopefully that's clear, and happy to open it up for questions.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Graham. Could I bring the Vice Chair, Graham Timms, and I think he wants to follow on with Melvyn Miles straight after that. So we'll start with Graham, and then we'll go straight on to Melvyn Miles. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to Brian and Mike for those comments. Just to put a bit of history in the Llangollen picture. I know it's not all about Llangollen, but that's the area that's been proposed as a trial. So just to put members in the picture on that. Llangollen's had a major problem with parking and traffic for very many years, and I know that a member on the town council told me that they were archiving the minutes from town council meetings in the 1960s, and parking and traffic were the major issues even then. It's a supply and demand problem. We've not got any supply hardly, and there's a huge demand. And this idea of varying car park charges, whilst no one wants to see expensive car parks, we want to cater for people that are the different groups of people that come into the town. Another point to just mention, if you look at the income from car parks across Denbighshire, you would expect RHYL and Prestatyn to be the major players, and Llangollen as well. It might surprise members to know that Llangollen is actually the second biggest income above Prestatyn in terms of car park, where they get about 25% more than Prestatyn. So there's quite a lot of income for the county. And the other point is that the Market Street car park that people will, I'm sure, be familiar with in Llangollen, it's got about 150 places, and it is the highest grossing car park in Denbighshire, even though it's relatively small. In fact, it's the highest grossing car park in the whole of North Wales, according to the Daily Post. So it is getting a lot of cash in for the county. But there is still a major problem in Llangollen. It's congested and there's problems with car parks. So when Mel and I became elected, on both of our election leaflets, we said that we were going to try and crack this problem of parking and traffic, and launched into a scheme where the two of us joined with 2 town councillors and 2 Chamber of Trade members in the Llangollen 2020 group, where, notice the name, Llangollen 2020, to make changes in the town to help with those issues. And that's what we've been doing for the last 4 years now, almost 4 years now. We said 2020, we thought we'd get things through for 2020. We didn't realise quite how slow you have to move with county council things, and it's like walking through treacle sometimes, but we're glad that we're making good progress, and it looks like it's going to see some progress fairly soon. So when the group started, we asked for a feasibility study, which was funded by Cadwyn Clwyd, to look at the problem. When they came back, they didn't have enough detail on parking. So we as a group decided to look at the situation with parking in a lot more detail. And we used a report from a place in Yorkshire where they were virtually identical to us. I can't remember what the place was now, but it was a town which had a relatively small population, not very many car parks, and lots of visitors during the summer and weekends. And we looked at that report and came with some solutions. Mel, I think, is going to explain what we looked at and some of the solutions for us.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Chair. We found there were six categories of users. We broke them down to being the residents who live in the town centre. Hardly any of those people have any parking facilities at all. They either park on the road or in the main car park, and there's massive pressure when the town gets busy. I mean, they can be sort of, the solution there lies with the residents parking scheme, which we hope to do a whole town scheme, because there are about 8 streets really without any parking. You know, they have to park outside on the pavement outside their houses. Really, there's no off-street parking. There are other residents who pop in and shop from the outlying parts of town, and because of the traffic part of Llangollen 2020, this meant that we've had to sort of in 2020 we're proposing that the parking is removed from Castle Street. So to make up for that and to help shopkeepers and business owners and these people who can't park on Castle Street or won't be able to park on Castle Street, one of the things that we've suggested in the report is that we offer 30 minutes free parking. Of course, this will have to be paid from somewhere. So, and by the way, visitors, I don't think would ever put in 30p for if you come into Llangollen, you're not going to bother putting in 30 pence into the machine to visit for half an hour. The other group are the business owners and people who work in the town. There are probably about 100 people who travel in daily. One of the proposals in the report would be to get those people to park up at Ysgol Brown, and they could park there at busy weekends, bank holidays, half term, and of course all of the month of August. The parking there could be by permit, with a cost to it, or if Mike's got a spare ticket machine, he could put a parking ticket, put a machine up there for them. The other group are the visitors, and as Mike has pointed out, we've got 2 central car parks, and we also have 3 peripheral car parks. So I'm repeating what Mike's just said. So ideally, the 2 central ones can become short stay with greater charges than and even more increased than the short stay parking that we have at the moment, and to encourage people to sort of park on the outskirts. As Graham just said, Market Street takes 137,000 a year. The next busiest car park in Denbighshire is the Sky Tower at 65,000. The other one in Llangollen, in East Street, that takes 43,000. With a demand like that, we can easily increase prices to cover any loss from this free half hour. And we're also planning to increase car parking spaces in Market Street car park. The reason being the buses aren't utilising all the spaces that they've been allocated. The other 2 groups are people with disabilities and the people who come into town with buses. The disability will be trying to, we will put new disabled bays just off Castle Street, and the buses can form a drop-off service outside of the car park on Market Street. We've consulted a couple of times in the town, positive mostly. Of course, there are always going to be some dissenters. We really do have a unique problem in Llangollen. We've got lots of visitors, but very limited parking. But we have to be able to deal with this demand and manage it in a unique way. The main tool that we need to do it is the flexibility to set our own car parking charges. And when I mean we, or our own, I mean Mike and his team. It's not us, it's Mike and the team. One size doesn't fit all, certainly not in Llangollen. It'll be a pilot for Denbighshire, and I just can't see that it won't work. It'll be cost positive, I'm sure. And I'd just like to ask you if you could support this experiment, please. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Graham, and thank you, Melvin. Emlyn or Mike, would you like to respond to that? Without going into, I don't know, the nitty gritty, because this is, I know Llangollen is a trial, but this is throughout the whole county. I think it should go to the Dee Valley Mags, but Emlyn, do you want to come back briefly, or Mike?
Yeah, diolch, Mr. Cadeirydd. I'm sure Mike will come in, but just to summarise, really, we're working really closely with Graham and Mel on this, and obviously part of the Llangollen 2020. So we want to support where we can, and I think this proposal and this proposed trial, I think, strikes that balance in actually looking at doing something different, maintaining, and keeping one eye on obviously income levels and how we can sustain that. And also maybe learning the lessons for other possible options in other towns in the county. So I think from our perspective, we're happy to put this forward as something we can support. So just really welcome the views of members. Mike, anything else to add on that at all?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And yeah, just to say, I mean, it's about, obviously today, it's about the principle of variation and obviously trialing it in one town to, to obviously see how it works. And obviously, as I said, to report back in the future. I mean, the exact detail, obviously Graham and Mel have outlined some of that, and, and that is something as well that, we'll work with them to, some of those things might still be tweaked as we go forward. But really for today, it's about the principle of being able to create local variation, as long as I've hopefully made clear earlier, that net income for that particular town doesn't change, so therefore it doesn't have an adverse effect on the overall income budget, because of course that feeds into investment back into the car parks across the county. So that's the key thing with it. It's not about giving Llangollen cheaper parking than elsewhere, so then there's less for the whole county. It's got to be, as a minimum, cost neutral. If it's cost positive, great, but as a minimum, it's got to be cost neutral. But it also, it's a real opportunity to learn, from it, which is why we're suggesting it as a trial, and why it would be really good then if we do implement it to be able to come back and share, some real detail of those findings with committee at a future date. Thank you.
Diolch, Emlyn, and diolch, Mike. Can I ask Rachel Flynn and then Peter Scott, please?
Thank you, Chair. It was just a quick question about amount of people that come from outside of Llangollen to work in the town centre. Obviously, my main concern was about people being penalised who are working in the shops in the town, if they have to obviously park and pay. I know obviously about the permit system. And is that done through the employer, or is that done individually by the individual? Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, I'll come back on that. So yeah, we have an existing permit system at the moment where people can purchase a long stay permit for £104 a year, so it works out £2 a week approximately. And so that system will remain. I mean, the only issue with it is that looking at which car parks permits can be used in, because clearly for a short stay car park, and there is an anomaly actually in Llangollen at the moment, because the largest car park that you've heard about, Market Street, it's short stay but does allow permit holders in, and that's a historic thing. It's not what's normally allowed for a long stay, short stay car park. Sorry, as the name suggests, short stay car park is supposed to be about short lengths of stay, so that it keeps that turnover of spaces. Spaces are available for people who want to come in and park close to the town centre. The intention then being that the long stay parking takes place in the more peripheral car parks, but certainly permits would still be available for those car parks. And as I say, for someone working in the town, it's still, relatively, well, extremely cheap, I would say, to be able to park for the equivalent of £2 a week.
Thank you, Mike. Rachel, happy?
Yep, lovely. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, Peter Scott?
Thank you, Chair. Very happy to support the Llangollen trial that they're going to do there. Very interested in the 30-minute free car parking for the rest of the county. That I think if we can give something away for nothing, it always makes everybody feel better. But it's just a thought for future reference. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Mervyn Parry?
Mute, yeah, there. Yeah, just a couple of things, Chair. Just some places of there will be blue badge areas in some of these parkings as there is now. There will be some people who are less able or less active than others who might not be on blue badges, and we just need to be careful that they're not penalised too much over this one, so that they can't maybe walk from the further ones. But and that was just a comment. Can I just ask, when we brought this to scrutiny in 2015, seems like a long time ago, and we were putting the prices up on the parking, I think we were given some sort of assurance that the money was being put to improve the car parking and make sure that the cleanliness of the car parking was
You're dropping off, sorry, Mervyn.
I just knocked the camera off. From the last scrutiny when I was there in 2015, I was just asking about the money that we were increasing the revenue to try and spend more money on the car parks to try and make sure that they looked more presentable Are we, and how is the maintenance of the car parks and cleaning of the car parks, weed control and things like that being done? I'm not always convinced that that part of it is done as we were promised. Thank you.
Mike, would you like to come back on that, please? I think Peter's just a statement, but Mike, Mervyn Parry's question.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I know we've come to this committee, I think, a couple of times previously to give updates in terms of the overall investment or the reinvestment of that additional funding that's been going back into the car parks. This year is obviously different, but for obvious reasons, and the impact there's been on income. But so there will be, in effect, an additional year's delay to that investment programme because of COVID. But certainly that's a programme that's continuing. It's seeing the replacement of a lot of pay and display machines, renewal of other car park features, resurfacing, relining, those kind of works, replacement of a lot of the signage as well, as a programme that we're partway through. In terms of the general maintenance, though, something else we've done, we had previously some SLAs, service level agreements in place with highways, but that was in some places it was a little bit sketchy. They hadn't been reviewed for years. Some car parks didn't seem to have SLAs in place at all. So what we've done, working with colleagues in highways over the last sort of 12, 18 months, is to go through car park by car park. There's something like 45, 46 car parks in total, and we now have a separate SLA for every car park that clearly itemizes what the tasks are that street scene within highways undertake. I'll certainly take on board the comments from Councillor Parry.
Mike, we do have an information pack coming to us in scrutiny in March, I believe. Rian's just told me, so just if that helps you out, even if that answers your question as well.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
So if it's been done, I'm quite happy with that. It was a little bit of a problem. It sounds like it's being in hand now. Thank you.
Let's see what happens in March with the documents. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Who have we got? Cynghorydd Meirig Davies, nesa dwi'n meddwl.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd, a diolch i Emlyn a Mike am yr adroddiad, a Brian. Un peth efo'r parcio pell yma, ysgol uwchradd Llangollen, ydyn ni'n siŵr bod unrhyw fodur sydd yn cael ei gadw yn fanno yn cadw'n ddiogel, rhag cael torri mewn gan bobl sydd eisiau dwyn pethau. Dwi wastad teimlo bod hynny yn gallu bod yn broblem yn rhai llefydd. Dwi'm yn deud bod ne fwy o ddwyn yn Llangollen, cofiwch. Ond mae o rhywbeth mae'r modurwr yn poeni amdano fo, ydy. A un peth bach arall, os oes Emlyn a Mike yn edrych ar hwn, os gwelwch o dda, tudalen 79, 3.2 a tudalen 81, pwynt 411 a 43, da ni'n defnyddio'r gair tariff yn y Gymraeg ac yn lluosog tariffiau. Wel, mae'n air ofnadwy. Ysgwrsodwch chi. Beth sy'n bod ar y gair sydd o'i flaen o, sef toll neu tollau yn yr adroddiad. Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd.
Diolch, Meirig, a dwi'n siŵr bod nawn ni sbio fewn i'r geiriau yna, ydych chi wedi arbrynu heddiw. Emlyn, Mike, ti eisiau dod yn ôl efo rhywbeth, Meirig, ateb i...
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll just come back about the question about security. I mean, obviously, security is an important consideration for all our car parks. There's certain things, sometimes the design of a car park can influence, obviously, security in terms of footfall. Is it overlooked? How many people walk past? Obviously, some of the car parks have CCTV. I'm not aware of any specific problems that we have in Llangollen, but obviously, it's something we can keep an eye on. And if we do start to get problems, we can obviously look at escalating our security measures, accordingly. Thank you.
Yeah, Meirig, hapus efo'r ateb?
Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi'ch ddau.
Any more members or outside the group would like to ask any more questions before we go to the recommendation? Graham Timms.
Sorry, just going cross-county issues. The car park charges were put up in 2016. Almost everything I've bought since 2016 has been going up in price. Car parks have remained constant, and are there plans to increase car parking charges across the county?
Emlyn, the middle, the mic.
Yep. Diolch. Obviously, you know, I'm sure Mike will come in. No specific plans at the moment. Obviously, we need to be reviewing, you know, all fees and charges annually anyway, which is something we do, you know, in the service. But Mike, anything else to add on that? But no proposals at the moment.
No, nothing specifically at the moment.
Okay, diolch.
Can I come in there, Chair, please? Yeah, just I accept what Mike has said there, but just for total transparency, you know, we have discussed recently about the car parking charges, but we haven't made any decisions. But we did have an open-ended conversation about sort of beach car parks and visitor car parks, but I just wanted to be totally transparent on that and emphasize that nothing was agreed. You know, it's just open for discussion going forward.
Thank you, Brian. Everybody happy with that now? Before I hand over to Graham Timms to do the recommendation summing up, we will be stopping for 10-minute comfort break and then rejoining. We'll give you the times when Graham's finished. Graham, can I go to recommendation, please?
Thank you. So the recommendations that the committee considers and provides observations on the contents of the report, which we've done, and considers, if appropriate, recommends the provision of a pilot scheme in Llangollen where car park tariffs are varied in the various car parks within the town centre on the basis that, where possible, there should be no net loss in car parking income from all the car parks in the Llangollen town centre. And finally, we confirm that we've read and understood the wellbeing impact assessment, which is Appendix C, as part of our consideration. I propose those recommendations, Chair.
Do we have a seconder? Peter Scott. Anybody against? Nobody against. Thank you. Can I thank you, Brian and Mike and Emlyn, for that agenda item. It's 6 minutes past 12 now. Can we meet at 20 past 12 back, please? Thank you very much. Hello.
Hyw, mi yw'r yma. Dau sgwrs efo ti cyn i ti fynd.
Ie, gewch, oce.
Dwi di methu y darn cynta ac o gynnau bethau.
Which is the universal credit, and Julian Thompson-Hill is the lead member. Can I just welcome Graham Kendall from the CAB as well, please? Mairig, we have some issues that Graham is unable to connect to the translation of Denbighshire. So I'm not sure how we're going to take answers or questions from you, Mairig. If you are going to ask questions, maybe you would be kind enough to speak in English. I do apologise.
Dwi'n meddwl bod gynna I ddim byd arall I ddeud. Diolch I ti. Mi wedi cael deud yn neud, a diolch yn fawr I ti.
Okay, so that solves that problem, that there be no questions in Welsh. Thank you. Julian, would you like to kick off, please, and welcome the officers? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. As you say, I'm ably supported today. I've got a number of bodies to provide the support. Apart from Steve, I've got Rachel and Paul from the team, and as you say, with Graham Kendall from CAD as well in attendance. I think this is if I'm correct, this is the third time that we've been before your committee in terms of updating the position with regards to our preparedness initially, and then the impact of universal credit. And this particular update was originally there to look at how we were migrating the final number of legacy benefits recipients onto universal credit, and then subsequent to that, obviously, we've added in the impact of COVID and I'll touch on that in a moment. I'll just do a very quick general introduction, and I'll hand over to Steve, and then Paul and Rachel will take you through the detail. But just to take you back through through time, essentially, universal credit started for us beginning of 2018. And in order to make sure that we were able to mitigate as far as possible any of the issues that might arise from that, we put in place very early back in 2017 a multidisciplinary team to look at that in terms of the Universal Credit Board, and that I think has worked exceptionally well over the last 3 years or so. To such an extent that we've now got to the stage where much of that mitigation has now become part of the day-to-day business as usual of the council, and therefore it's felt more appropriate that the board now be merged essentially into the wider tackling poverty group, although we can always be reactivated if the need be. As you'll see from the report, the original timing for the third and final tranche transferring to Universal Credit was supposed to have been back end of last year or the beginning of this. COVID obviously intervened with that, which has meant that has been suspended. I'm not quite sure when that will now come to fruition. But obviously COVID has then created a whole raft of other issues for us. You can see in the reports in sections, I think it's 4.6 and 4.7, if memory serves me, or somewhere in the report anyway, the temporary measures that have been put in place by governments generally to assist with those receiving universal credit, and also some of the next steps that we're proposing that will be necessary to take this forward. Before I hand over to the experts to take you through the detail of it, just a couple of points, I suppose, when we're looking at raw data, which we will be doing in a moment, that it always needs to be borne in mind that a lot of the comparable data has sort of gone out of the window because of COVID. Many of the new applicants going on to universal credit now have been are people that have not previously been claiming benefits in any form, and there's also a huge range and scope from people at one extreme for whom universal credit is the principal income source, and to others who are only receiving a top up in one particular area. And again, because of the nature of the COVID lockdown scenarios where we've been in, out, there will be a number of claimants who will have been in, claiming it, then not claiming it, then back into claiming it again. So those sort of details I suppose need to be borne in mind when we're considering the overall data. So I think that's probably all I wanted to say. So if I can hand over to Steve, and then we'll go over to Paul and Rachel.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Thank you, Julian, for that introduction. I'm just going to give a brief introduction from the strategic finance side. Paul and sorry, am I okay? Do I need to switch my camera
on? Sorry, Steve.
You're breaking up a bit, Steve. Yeah.
There you go. I thought I'd try with the camera just so you could see I was there, but there you go. I've switched it off. Yeah, sorry. So I'm just going to give a brief introduction from the impact on the council's finances, really, and then obviously we have three experts to go into the detail. Universal credit has obviously increased this year, as you'll see by the figures. I won't go into the detail of those, but and that's generally as a result of COVID rather than the natural migration that has been ongoing. There has been an element of that, but the real increase is the universal credit for good or ill is providing a lot of support to a lot of people in the county during the COVID pandemic, which is obviously welcome. That in a way that's a good thing that it's providing that support, that take up has been there. As far as the impact on the finance of the council, there's two broad ones. One, obviously, because the DWP administer the universal credit,
whereas a number of other benefits were administered by ourselves, the main one being housing benefit. And we had a housing benefit administration grant, which was given to us to administer that grant. That's been reducing on an ongoing basis each year as the transfer from the old benefits to the one universal credit administered by DWP, which you know, it sounds all very logical, but we are still doing a lot of work in this area. It's sort of the money's gone down, but the work hasn't gone down by the same amount, so it does cause us a pressure. We've in finance have managed to we've managed to cope with that by making internal savings across our service up to now, but there might come a stage where we have to put a pressure in to make up for that, depending on the ongoing work that we think is required. So that's one of the financial impacts. The other financial impact is obviously the council tax reduction scheme, which it became under our responsibility in about 2013, and it came in at the level of the spend in that year. So it came in for us just over £9 million. Currently we're well over 10 million, and it's gone up this year more so than recent years. Now it's slightly the financial impact this year has been helped because Welsh Government has viewed that increase this year as a COVID related cost. So we are getting a cash grant this year to help with those increasing costs. But it's likely that the levels will tail off rather than, you know, when recovery is going to be slow, I guess is what I'm saying. So it's likely that we'll feel that financial impact for the months and years to come, and we're not sure whether we'll get additional funding, whether that grant to cover those increases in CTRS will be ongoing. We're hopeful it will at least be ongoing for the first half of the new year. In 21-22, but ongoing, we're not sure, you know, obviously we don't know. And I think that's about all I'd like to say. I think Julian covered most things around the actual multidisciplinary team, and you know, I'd like to thank Paul, Rachel, and our colleagues in CAD for all the work they've done in this area. It's been a brilliant job over the years. So yeah, I'll pass over to Paul now, I think, or is it Paul first and then Rachel?
Yeah, yeah, we can take it either way. All I was going to raise, if I may, I believe prior to the meeting we were asking a number of questions that I just thought may be worth covering off at this stage, if that's okay with yourself, Chair.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, the first one was clearly to invite a colleague from Citizens Advice to give their perspective if the members had any questions around the sort of engagement from Citizens Advice and the wider impact on the community that they may have felt. And kindly Graham's here today to deal with any questions that you may have. So that was the first question that or thing you raised for us to pick up. The second one was to look at the question came around the impact of legacy, so the number of customers that were still on the legacy benefit compared to how they were previously. This is a really difficult question to answer because we don't have all the data on those legacy customers across Denbighshire, primarily because they come from a range of sources. Some of them may be HMRC related, where people...
Sorry, Paul, you're breaking off a bit. You want to turn your camera off, Paul? Paul, we're losing you. Sorry, Paul.
Am I lagging?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I'll turn the cam off. Sorry, I'll go over that again. The data around getting confirmation around the number of customers on legacy benefit is a very difficult one for us to attain, primarily because legacy customers are made up from a range of different benefits that we don't always have the data on. So, for example, HMRC hold the data that would be around family tax credits, and we don't get information shared around that. So the easiest way for us to demonstrate how legacy customers numbers may have dropped over the last 12 months are, if I can give you some figures, if that's okay,
yes,
Chair. Yes. We still able to monitor housing benefit claims, so housing benefit numbers of customers on housing benefit, and in 2020 that figure was looking at a figure of 3,562, And this year, at the same point in January, that was dropped to 3,130. So it was actually only a drop of 432 cases in total. So it's just proving that the drop isn't significant with the move from people from legacy benefit in some areas.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I can certainly answer more questions on that if members have any specific issues on that after. Also as well, the figures for free school meals and CTRS council tax reduction scheme have been noted in the paper, and I think they're on Appendix 2. But just as members had asked for a little bit more information around the percentage drop or increase, sorry, there'd actually been an increase of 2.8% increase on claims for CTRS, council tax reduction, and a 10.9% increase in free school meal customers or children on free school meals within Denbighshire over a period of from March of last year to November of last year. So just to give you an idea, and I think Steve's picked up the last question, which was around the funding of CTRS by Welsh Government. So I think they were all the questions that were raised previously, Chair and Vice Chair. Was there anything else on those that you wanted us to address?
Not at this present time. I'm sure there'll be questions later on.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. What I'm going to, sorry, I was going to propose that we throw it over to Rachel, because Rachel was going to talk us through some of the raw data, if that was okay, that may be useful and support some questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you, Rachel.
Diolch. Prynhawn da. I'm Rachel Thomas. I've been the lead officer for Universal Credit in the council since 2017. I just wanted to give a little bit more
Rachel,
context.
we're losing you. Sorry, could you turn your camera off? Sorry.
Of course.
Rachel, can we turn the camera off? Thank you.
Okay, does that sound better?
That's better, yeah.
Hopefully,
Thank you,
yeah.
Rachel.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Rachel Thomas. I've been the lead officer for Universal Credit in the council since 2017. And what I wanted to do was just to give you a little bit more context, really, to some of the information and data that is on Appendix 1 and 2. So Appendix 1 shows the number of Denbighshire residents on Universal Credit. And looking at the data for the year 2020, obviously we can see the change in figures over March and April and May in response to the first lockdown. And then we have a more gradual increase in the months that follow. So in March, we can see there were 5,238 people on Universal Credit in Denbighshire. By November, which is the latest data available from DWP, it's 8,943. So that's an extra 3,705 people, which calculates at nearly 71% increase. Just to put a little backdrop to that figure of 71% increase in Denbighshire, the North Wales increase is 78%, and the All Wales figure is 77%. So we're slightly less, but obviously it's still a significant increase. Paul's explained the legacy benefits situation and explained the small change with our housing benefit database. So he's explaining that's gone down approximately 12%. So from that we can deduce that many of our new claimants aren't our traditional customers that we've seen historically. They are, it sounds like, new claimants to our to the Universal Credit. So we suspect that that there are a large number of people for whom Universal Credit is a new experience. And the HB caseload has not changed really significantly. On Appendix 2, we've looked at some of the impacts for the council. And as Paul's explained, we have seen rise in council tax reduction and free school meals. When you weigh those figures and statistics against the rise in Universal Credit, they do sort of warrant some further investigation, if you like, because the council tax reduction increase and free school meals increase does seem to be lower than the rise in Universal Credit by quite some way. So we have been looking into this further and trying to understand what is going on. And just to say as well, this is a key point really, we're monitoring these statistics every month. We get the DWP data, and we are monitoring our own internal council tax reduction and free school meals data monthly. And our own internal benefits, council tax reduction, free school meals, are monitored formally each month at an operational board, of which Steve and Paul are part of. So we're keeping an extremely close eye on this data. But just to refer back to the increases in council tax reduction and free school meals, one of the reasons we understand that they're not so high as universal credit is that people may be having a drop in income, and so they qualify for a certain amount of universal credit, but their drop in income has not been so low that they then qualify for council tax reduction and free school meals. And we know this because we've been talking to our colleagues internally who look after the applications for council tax reduction and free school meals. And obviously there are occasions when people apply, but they don't meet the criteria. And we've been asking what's happening, why are they not meeting the criteria? And that seems to be a common theme. People who are meeting the UC threshold, but not these additional benefits. So one thing we have to be very, very mindful of is there are quite a number of emergency financial measures in place at the moment, which are providing buffers for many people. So for example, the job retention scheme, more widely known as the furlough scheme, is supporting a lot of people. We're mindful that if that is withdrawn or scaled back at in the near future or whenever that might be, that we might see people whose income does drop further. Obviously that will depend on their individual circumstances, and we will see a varied picture of how that affects people. So another thing we are doing, as well as monitoring the data extremely closely, is the decisions that are made both by Westminster and Welsh Government with regards to those emergency measures. I think that's everything that I wanted to cover, and obviously we welcome questions on that. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thank you, Rachel. Graham, Kendall, is anything you want to add? I know you've been dropped in the deep end here. I know you've come in without any notice, and it's really short notice, and we do appreciate you coming, but we thought it was really important what we had you here today.
Thank you, Chair. I hope you can hear me. I will turn my video off now. I've introduced myself briefly, just because I'm aware of the problems that other people have experienced. It's a pleasure to be here. I think the first thing I would say is I'll echo what Julian's already said, and Rachel and Paul, is that I think our approach to this since 2017, 2018 was entirely the right one, insofar as what we did was set up some really strong partnerships so people who want support know exactly where to come for that support. And the referral systems that we have in place with the local authority are such that people get that very quickly. And I think that's extremely important for universal credit, because there is very, very little option to backdate a new claim. In terms of numbers from our point of view, if I can say that since lockdown, we have supported 1,235 people to make new claims. Over 100 of those we've additionally supported digitally with the claim. On top of that, we've got a further 750 UC claimants supported to either maintain their claim or with adjustments to the claim during its progress. And also our stats record, and some of these will be the same cases, some of them were different cases, about 1,500 specific inquiries relating to COVID-19. I think it is very difficult to reconcile the figures. We would love to see every person who chooses to make a universal credit claim come for advice. Quite clearly we don't. Some people regard it as a very straightforward process, and for many that's exactly what it is, and for many there's no detriment to not seeking advice, but for some there is. And I would just wish to encourage anybody, and we've tried to give the message through our partnerships to do this, anybody who wishes or whose circumstances change to such that they need to make a claim, to try and get some advice first. we can deal with any issues around the transition, and also we can make sure people get the additional support in cases where they actually need it. Many won't, but some will. I pick up on Rachel's comments about, yes, currently the measures are in place that will support a lot of people and keep them away from, I suppose, currently the greater hardships. We're aware of, sort of been mentioned during this discussion, we're aware there's currently a £20 a week uplift. Current thinking is that may disappear in March. We're campaigning heavily to stop that happening. But at some point, these forbearance measures are going to fall away, and they are going to impact on people to one degree or another. I suppose to offset that, in many cases, we talked about there was going to be the transition from legacy to universal credit. And I suppose what has happened in the last 12 months, it is 12 months, isn't it? In the last 12 months is that process has at least been escalated insofar as many people's changing circumstances will have already occurred during the last 12 months to the point where that transition will have happened, albeit rather more quickly than the DWP anticipated it to happen. So my message really is, we're working very well with the local authority. We're working very well within communities to get people the support that they need. I just wish to encourage people to get the advice they need, insofar as to ensure that they're getting the full level of the support for their circumstances. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Graham, and I'm sure we all send our thanks for all the hard work you're doing under these difficult times as well. Members, I'd like to open it up now to the floor. Any questions from members, please? Everybody's quiet. So yeah, Graham Timms will kick off then. Thank you, Graham.
Yeah, just a couple of points. Paul, first of all, you mentioned about it's difficult to access these numbers from how many people are on the existing system. And you mentioned housing benefits, 3,562 people's housing benefits. Is that the sort of estimate? You know, about 4,000 people would be on the existing benefits. What I'm trying to get a feel for is how, if you look at the increase, I think Rachel said it was 71% on Appendix 1 since March to December or to November. You know, it's obviously that's not the increase of people going on benefits. The increase of people going on benefits is less than that, because that's only, you know, the 4,000 that you start with or the 5,000 you start with is not everyone on benefits. So I'm trying to get a figure of how many, what the effect of people on unemployment and going into benefits has been from COVID, really. And it looks to me like it's about 20 or 30%, but I'm not sure how accurate my interpretation is of the figures there. So just a further comment on that, if you could, please, Paul. And also on CAD, should I say? Sorry, Graham. The two things I wanted to ask there was firstly about capacity. And have you had an enormous increase in cases over the last 9 months compared to previously, sort of for general help in people's situation? And secondly, obviously you're online now. Is that a problem, particularly with people who are on benefits and don't have access to computers and computer equipment and so on, because the very time that they need to access help, they're not able to pop into their one-stop shop or wherever to see the citizens' advice?
Thank you, Graham. I think we'll kick off with Paul, I think, please.
Thank you, Chair. Where we are, I think the figures are very difficult to pull together, primarily because, as we know, because we brought this to scrutiny on a number of occasions now, the sources of data for customers to come onto UC, or sorry, the legacy benefit is widespread. So it's not across one government department. So for example, we within the local authority would look after the housing benefit element. There were other elements that were looked by the HMRC, as I said previously, and other government departments. So the challenge is the fact that we're not able to pull all that historic data together. The bit that we're able to almost analyze is the bit that we shared today with you to show there has been a move from that legacy, but it's difficult to get the whole picture. What we understand, or are some of our assumptions from looking at the data that's been supplied by DWP, and there is a bit of a caveat with this, but our rough indications are there is roughly about 2,700 people that are classed as unemployed. Sorry, let me start again with that. They fall within a category of people that may be classed as not able to work because of sick, not able to work because they've got child commitments. So they're actually not actively looking for work. And that figures at about 2,700. That compares to a figure pre-COVID of about 2,100. So what we're actually thinking is there's actually about 600 people that are actually classed as what we may have historically known as claiming job seekers allowance. So the figures are very, very complicated around this. What we surmise a lot of the data increases caused by, as Rachel alluded to, is people claiming low-level support. So things like family tax credit and additional funding rather than claiming a full universal credit allowance. And it's that additional element we think has caused some of that rise in numbers. We also think it's factors such as universal credit now holds customers' accounts open for a 6-month period, where previously you would go off universal credit, now it holds that claim open for a longer period. So that's distorting the figures as well. And another factor that's impacting on the increase in those figures as well is the fact that many people who are self-employed, so for example, taxi drivers, hairdressers, because of the way that lockdown has impacted on them, some weeks they may have been able to work, other weeks they may not. And what we're finding is they're dipping in and out of universal credit on a regular basis, which we think is also distorting those figures significantly. So some weeks they've got income coming in, and then other weeks they're seeing there's a big financial drop in their income. So I've gone a long way round, Graham, telling you the fact that the data is very complex. We think we're getting to terms with it, and the analysis we're making is the fact that the numbers are high, but we think they're mainly impacted by those reasons I've highlighted a moment ago. I don't know whether that answered your question or not.
I was just going to say that based on that number, that based on what you've said about the complexity and the different indications you've given, would I be right to assume that probably the increase in people on benefits as a whole is about 20%?
Yeah, potentially, but again, it's what level of benefit. What we've asked for is we've started. We used to have regular meetings with DWP at a regional level, and we've asked for them to be reinstated because they stopped over the COVID period, and we want to start doing a lot more work on the analysis of the information that you're sort of challenging today, Graham, to understand exactly what that increase has been down to. It wouldn't be a bad assumption, but at this stage it is an assumption of 20%.
Thank you, Paul. And Graham, Kendall, would you be kind enough to answer the second part of the question, please?
Yes, yes, Mr. Chairman. Couple of points raised by Graham. Yes, we have seen an increase in cases, Graham. As I said, we've specifically had 1,500 inquiries purely because of COVID. Those will range. Some will be employment based. Some initially will have been because of furlough and possibly, and indeed, no doubt, still are. But they're additional to our normal inquiry level. Back in March, we managed to move our entire workforce, if you like, to remote working, which everybody is equipped to do, and was equipped very quickly to do. The vast majority of our vice channel shifted from it was always multi-channel, but yes, there was a lot of it based on drop-ins through community outreach, etc., etc. That moved very, very quickly to other channels, predominantly telephone, but also video and also web chat. What that's led to is two things, really. I suppose we've had an increase in contacts from people we wouldn't normally see, if you like. Mentioned that we're seeing a different client, if you like. We're seeing different people in some respects because of the crisis and the impact of the last 12 months. So we've got, for example, a much higher proportion of things like web chat inquiries, which we were dealing with before, but not at the sort of levels that we have done in the last 12 months. And there was initially that concern that we're going to lose, if we're not careful, we're not dealing with the people who access our walking services. But I think what's happened is, because of the burgeoning community effort that went on at the time, efforts by the local authority, redeployment, contacting vulnerable groups, we've used project activity to do that. I'm significantly convinced that anybody who has needed help in the last 12 months has accessed that help. It would be nice at some point to be able to move to a limited face-to-face service. I don't think we'll ever move quite to what we had before. I think we'll always have a multi-channel service, and maybe that will there's probably a degree of permanent shift in that. But it would still be nice at some point to be able to offer those face-to-face services in the way similar to what we did. But we are still doing that, because we're doing it through partners. Other people do still have access on an in-person basis with those groups, and we're working through them to make sure those people get the support they need.
Thank you, James. Can I move on to Rachel Flynn for the next question, please?
Hi, thank you, Chair. This is for Paul. I was just in Appendix 2 about the free school meals. So just trying to understand the impact on the council, you know, free school meals. If any claimant who's getting universal credit, they're entitled to free school meals. But it says here about the transitional protection now goes on till 2024. Could you just explain a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, if I may, it's mostly Rachel's area of expertise, the transitional protection. Can I, if you don't mind, I'll pass on to Rachel to answer that one.
Yeah,
Cheers, thank you.
Absolutely. Transitional protection was brought in long before we'd ever heard of COVID. This is completely unrelated to COVID. It's Welsh government legislation, but it actually follows exactly what Westminster did as well for England. And basically what happened was, initially when universal credit was introduced, there was a little bit of a grey area about how we then apply criteria for free school meals. There was a mismatch between the legacy benefits and universal credit. It's quite complex, and if anybody wants any further information, they're welcome to let me know. Welsh Government introduced this transitional protection because there was a strong possibility that a very small number of children who would have qualified for free school meals under legacy benefits would not qualify under universal credit for complex reasons. They decided to put in protection, a buffer, so that those children didn't miss out on free school meals. And the solution was transitional protection, which protects that small number of children, but it actually provides a very blanket approach of protection. What it means is, since April 2019, if you were on free school meals in April 2019, or if you become eligible for free school meals since that time, you don't lose free school meals if your household financial circumstances improve to the point that actually you wouldn't ordinarily be entitled to free school meals because your income is now above the threshold. So children perhaps whose parents have now secured a better financial position previously would have lost their free school meal entitlement. This Welsh Government legislation means that they don't lose that free school meals entitlement. So what that means is that we have an increase in free school meals that is separate to COVID anyway. We always knew we were going to have an increase in numbers. Welsh Government have said in the legislation that they will provide this transitional protection until at least December 2024. They chose that date because that was when the full completion of universal credit was anticipated at the time. Welsh Government, in the light of COVID and the increase in free school meal numbers across Wales, we understand are aware now that that protection they may see in a different light in terms of they hadn't anticipated all these additional children who now qualify for free school meals. So we understand they are aware that obviously there's a financial implication there. What they intend to do about it, we have inquired, but we haven't had any responses yet. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you both, Rachel. Any more speakers on this subject, please? Any more questions from the scrutiny panel? No, everybody seems to be happy. So can I ask the Vice Chair, Graham Timms, to do the summing up? He's just trying to find his glasses. Sorry, Graham.
Sorry, Chair. Went into a panic then when I couldn't find my glasses. Life stops. The recommendation's fairly straightforward, I think. And I just want to beat the chair to it, because I know he'll thank everyone, but I, as a member of the committee, have really appreciated you coming and the work that you're doing. It's the Citizens Advice in Denbighshire and our own teams that have been working with people who've fallen on hard times, particularly in this current crisis. So thanks very much. But the recommendation is to consider the report contents provided by for information and reassurance purposes, and comment accordingly, which I would propose that we've done already.
Thank you, Graham. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mervyn Parry. Anybody against? Nobody against. So we've taken that recommendation. Can I just echo Graham's praise as well for everybody involved in this hard times in these current days, and thank you ever so much. And we'll move on to agenda item number 8, which is the scrutiny work programme. Rhian?
Dyma'r adroddiad rhaglen waith arferol i chi. Yn atodiad 1 ar dudalen 115, mi welwch yr rhaglen waith fel mae'n sefyll ar hyn o bryd. Rwan, fel bob dim arall, mae cysgod Covid dros bob dim ar hyn o bryd. A dwi wedi gwneud chydig o ymoliadau ynglyn â'r rhai o'r eitemau sydd ar y rhaglen waith fel mae'n sefyll ar hyn o bryd. Mis Mawrth, mae'n eitem yna ar the role of Denbighshire in public transport and active travel provision. Dwi wedi cael gair hefo nifer o swyddogion ynglyn â hyn, ac wrth gwrs mae Covid wedi dal bob dim yn ôl, so maen nhw yn gofyn os yn bosib i honnau gael ei dal yn ôl rwan tan tua mis Hydref, pe maen nhw'n gobeithio fydd yna rhyw fath o normalrwydd yn ôl, a fydd trafnidiaeth gyhoeddus yn ei ôl, ag hefyd yr active travel fel fydd o'n edrych tua'r dyfodol.
Diolch Rhian, dwi'n meddwl bod hynny'n syniad reit gall. Ydy pawb yn cytuno hefo fi bod ni'n hapus i symud hwnna draw i rwle? Ie, pawb yn hapus? Ie, Rhian, diolch Rhian.
Felly, ar gyfer mis Mawrth ar y rhaglen waith chi ar hyn o bryd, mae gennych chi eto nôl i Covid-19 a'r thema adfer ar gyfer adeiladau'r cyngor. Mi ddoth hwnna ato chi mis Medi dwytha, gan chi ofyn am ddiweddariad, deud y gwir, ynglyn â hwnna ar gyfer mis Mawrth. So, os di hynny'n iawn efo chi.
Pawb yn hapus efo hwnna? Ie.
Mis Mai wedyn, ar hyn o bryd, mae'n eitem yn fanna ar y Planning Compliance Charter. Dwi'n gwybod bod yna rhywbeth i gyhoeddi'n ddiweddar iawn am y siarter yma. Felly, wrach bod hi bach yn fuan eto i honedd ddod ato chi mis Mai rwan, a wrach ddylai gael ei symud i cynnar flwyddyn nesaf, os ydych chi'n cytuno efo hynny.
Anffodus, mae pethau yma dyn ni'n methu helpu beth sydd wedi digwydd efo Covid, so ydy pawb yn hapus i ni symud hwnna draw i flwyddyn nesaf? Ie. pawb yn hapus, Rhian. Diolch.
Oce. Mae'r grŵp cadeiryddion yn cyfarfod pnawn yma, a mae gennyn nhw, dwi'n meddwl, 6 o geisiadau o'i blaenau nhw ar gyfer eitemau i ddod i craffu. So, efallai ar ôl hynny, fi neu eitem arall neu 2 yn ymddangos ar eich rhaglen waith chi ar gyfer mis Mawrth a cyfarfodydd eraill wrach. Os gen rhywun unrhyw eitem yn eisiau'r grŵp cadeiryddion ystyried yn y dyfodol, plis llenwch y ffurflen neu fewn sy'n atodiad 2 ac anfonwch chi nôl atai, ydyn neu ofyn i nhw edrych arni. Yn atodiad 3 mae rhaglen waith y cabinet, er gwybodaeth i chi, a wedyn yn atodiad 4 mae'r diweddara ar eich argymhellion chi o'r cyfarfod dwytha. Yn atodiad 5, a hefyd dwi'n cyfeirio ato fo yn yr adroddiad ym mharagraff 4.10, mae'n gylch gorchwil drafft ar gyfer y grŵp tasg a gorchwil yma, oeddech chi wedi gofyn i gael ei sefydlu i edrych ar yr llifogydd a lle mae'n mynd drwy dir preifat a thirfeddianwyr. Mae cynllun yn fanna i chi edrych arno fo i gael eich sylwadau chi cyn i gadarnhau o, cyn i ni fynd ymlaen i sefydlu'r grŵp yna.
Rhian, ga i just pech chi'n munud? Mae gen i 2 siaradwr eisiau siarad. Un ydy cynghorydd Myrwyn Parry a llall ydy cynghorydd Peter Scott. Ga i just weld be maen nhw i ddeud cyn i ni mynd ymlaen? Diolch. Ia, oce, Myrwyn.
Diolch Hugh, diolch Rhian. Ydra i just ofyn efo chi ynglyn...
Ni stryglo clywed ti, Myrwyn, sori.
Sorry, ti'n clywed fi'n Saesneg o well? Can you hear me in English better? Does it come over okay that way?
Yeah.
No, hang on, wait a minute. I'll put my ugly face off. You can probably... Can you hear me now okay?
That's much better, Myrwyn.
Yeah, there. Surprising what my ugly face can do too.
I can't hear him now. I heard him in Welsh.
Hang on. Can you hear me now, Rachel? Can you hear me now?
Yep, you just dip in and out, yep.
Yeah. It was just a question to Rhian about the find it again now, on the for Ysgol Hewl, not the Ysgol Hewl, sorry, is a community impact assessment on the communities of Hewl and Llanynys. I see the authors of this is Geraint Davis and James Curran, which is strictly an educational look at it. And I was under the impression that we were looking at a broader outlook of the impact of how closing Ysgol Hewl had affected the community of Hewl and Llanynys, not just the education. I think we've had a little bit of a report of how the education has worked. It's how closing a school in the village impacted the community and around it. And that was what the assessment that was going to be done and was promised to us from Jackie Wally and other people during the time when they wanted to close the Ysgol Hewl down. We lost the shop, we lost the school, we're struggling with other things there. So that was the assessment I was wanting to do, not just an education. So I think we need to add somebody from who can fill that role, as well as Geraint and James, please.
Just on that, if you read the purpose of the report, actually the purpose of the report is to present the findings of the community impact assessment undertaken following the closure of Ysgol Hewl, as agreed as part of the Modernising Education programme. I have spoken to the head of education about this, and they've gone through the notes of those meetings early on during the programme, and apparently there's no notes there of any promise to make a community impact assessment. So Geraint and James have said that they'll look into it and try and find the appropriate people to write that impact assessment.
Okay, if I can come back on that, when we were in, and I can maybe get some more information on that. My iPad's gone flat now, so I'm not looking at, can't look at my paper, sorry. But I can, because when we were in the meetings in Ysgol Hewl with Jackie Wally and I can't remember who else was, it could have been Howen as well at the time. You know, none of them are with us now or in Denbighshire working anyway. But when we were having the meeting in the school, that was something that was asked by the locals in the school of how we could get that information. So it might not have been minuted in in the meetings of the closing the school, but it was something that was brought up in those meetings that was held in Ysgol Rhewl, that I was there, Mike Denman was there, some of the other main people from Rhewl there. So I could possibly ask Mike to put some meat on the bone on that one to help me, but I don't want it just be buried in the education part, because it was a big thing in any village to lose a school, and there's got to be an impact on how that affects a community when you close a school, and that's what we wanted. That's what they said they would do, and that's what we expect to happen, please.
Yeah, that's fine, that's okay. That's the reason why that Geraint and James are down as the authors, is because they've said they will find the information and the appropriate person who can undertake that assessment. Yes, they're just the people I go to get that information.
Are you happy to liaise with Rhian and
Yeah, that's fine.
work out between the two of you who are the right people to take
I
this?
just want them to understand that it's not just an educational thing we're on about, it's about the community impact.
Diolch. Okay, diolch.
Leader, if I'm sorry, Chair, if I may come in, it's Graham here.
Great, yes.
Yeah, if I can help in any way there, Rhian, get me involved.
Thank you for that, Graham.
Happy to help out. You know, if there's a discussion ongoing in education, how are we going to do that, or who do we need to involve, and etc. Do feel free to involve me. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. It's so difficult when officers have moved on. I think there's not many of the original team of going back to there still present in the county hall here. Peter Scott, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's just the group's made up of finishing with elected members from one from each mag. Have you got a time scale on that, Chair, or is that just after we've had the next mag meetings when we're all formed up? That was all, really.
I would think we're waiting for names from the mags, are we, Rhian?
Well, the first stage is for you to agree the terms of reference before I approach the mags and any other groups for representatives.
So what you're looking today is what we vote on it today, that we are happy to go out to mags to have a representative from each mag, which is politically equal.
Yeah, what I'm asking for there, you asked us to go away and draft the terms of reference, which we did in conjunction with Tony Ward and Wayne Hope. So that's the draft we've come up with.
Okay.
What we're asking for you today is your views or observations on that task on the terms of reference. Does it cover what you want it to cover? Any amendments you want to make to it then, and the membership, then we can start looking at the membership. It will take some time to establish, because if we go forward with one from each mag, we also then need representatives from Welsh Water, Natural Resources Wales, the farming unions as well. So it will take some time to establish.
Members?
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy with what's on the group brief. I don't know if Mervyn had something to add to it, but fine with where it's from. Thank you.
Is everybody happy? Can I have a proposer? Mervyn, our seconder, Peter Scott. Thank you. Peter Anton, sorry. Okay, so we're happy to take that to mags. Yeah, great, thank you. Rhian, rywbeth arall?
Na, just yr unig beth arall ydy, diwrnod o blaen nes i anfon yr information brief atoch chi gyd efo'r adroddiad a'r gwybodaeth ar yr gwasanaeth archifau a chydig o fanylion eraill, ond just gwybodaeth mae hwnnw.
Lovely, diolch. Number 9 is feedback from committee representatives. Any feedback from anybody? No, we don't believe there is. Before we come to the close of the meeting.
Sorry, Chair, just a really quick one. It was just about, is there a way of filling out this form online, Rhian?
Yes, an online version was sent to you just before Christmas, I think, at members' request. So I did ask you all to save it, so you've got the template ready to send off whenever you want to fill one in.
Diolch, diolch Rhian.
Thank you.
Just before we come to a close, I'd just like to thank all the staff here today and the translator. We are in County Hall with the windows wide open, freezing, but it seems to be working really well. And I'd like to thank all the members for their great questions today and great scrutinising of all the papers, and wish you a safe journey home. And on that note, we'll close the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Well done. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Chair. See you all
Very
again.
good.
Bye now.